Hey, podcast listeners. This is a slightly different episode than we've ever done before. We have been collaborating with Nicky Farrell from Wildlings over in Australia. And Nicky is one of the hosts of the podcast Raising Wildlings, who talk about all things forest school out in Australia. And so because we are both nature educators and podcasters, we've decided to do something a little bit different. What you're about to hear is the first half of our conversation, where we chat for about half an hour, and then the second half of this conversation is going to be over on Nicky's channel, over on Raising Wildlings podcast. So if you are joining us and you want to get into this after the first half has gone, then you can head over to Raising Wildlings podcast and hear the second half of the conversation where we get into even more juicy bits. If you are someone who has joined us for the first time because you've been sent here from Raising Wildlings, welcome. We are Lewis and Wem, hosts of the Forest School podcast here in the UK. I do hope you enjoy the stuff we are putting out. Have a look through some of our other episodes, and without further ado, we'll get into the episode. You're listening to the Forest School podcast. Delicious waffle chat about education, nature connection, child development, community building, and lots more. Hosted by Lewis Ames and Wem Sutherland. Boom, we're in. Internationally. Systems going around the globe. That's a scary thought, isn't it? To think that there's a signal going all the way. Do you think there's a closer way? We're talking to Nicky Farrell, who's over in Wildlings in Australia. I'm just wondering if there's a shorter... which way around the world is shorter?
I think it's got to be through the middle.
Of course.
Just think outside the sphere. Oh, I don't know. That's a great question.
Which side
Geography
of Australia?
is not my strong suit.
Yeah, where are
bit
you?
Of Australia
We're on the
you
east coast. On the east coast near Brisbane. So, yeah, I'm not sure. Singapore and then west. Which is where the airlines go. I'm not sure that's the fastest. It's just the fastest way we can get there with no layovers or just one stopover. We're so isolated here. It's so, it's a whole new world.
Yeah. Do you feel that very regularly, or is it only occasionally?
I think we don't even realise until we travel, but I also think that's why so many of us choose to travel, is that, you know, we hear all these stories about, I just ducked over to Paris, or I just ducked over to Portugal, and we can't duck over anywhere. You know, if I want to go to my next capital city, it's a 10-hour drive, which would be 3 European countries. So, it's I don't think we quite realise until we've left how big and vast this land is, but also how different, you know, we have different accents in different states and different ways of being, different education laws and systems in our 7 states. So it's big. It's open, wide, beautiful country. But gosh, yes, it's big.
There's a joke that's in the UK that if you only need to drive about 20 minutes before all the accents have changed and bread has a new name. We're very varied across the counties.
We'd probably be more like every 5 to 6 hours.
Yeah.
But even Queensland, you can't drive. If you drive 10 hours west, you're still in the same state. It's crazy. More than that, it would probably be more like 20 if you're heading west. It's nuts.
Wow.
It's incomprehensible until you get in the car, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to segue then, because here's my seamless link. You ready? Talking about broadening our horizons.
I can't wait.
Ready?
Ooh,
broadening
nice.
our horizons.
Well done.
Thanks, man. And we are talking to Nicky because, Nicky, you also have a podcast. You have the Raising Wildlings podcast. And we were going backwards and forth trying to work out what can we do together? How can we, because we've got such overlap, but also such like different expertise in different areas. And it took us a while to kind of get around and we're like, do you know what it is? One of the things we have is that we're all lifelong learners who are in education. It's that thing of we're kind of relentlessly going, I could learn more, I could learn more, I could get more out of this. And we thought we'd have a chat about not necessarily just the good bits, but also what can be tricky about that and how we go about doing it. So we're very grateful that you've taken the time to come and chat with us.
Thank you. It was so funny when I got your email and you presented the what topic, and I present on forest school, that, because I don't know what it's like over there, but in Australia, this is still a new sector for us, a new kind of philosophy. And when I say new, it's at least a decade old here, but that's fresh, right? That's pretty new. So when I go on podcasts, everyone's like, tell us about forest school, tell us about what it's like to work outdoors, doing these adventurous activities with children. So then when you posed the question, I was like, what is my niche within the niche? But when you brought up the lifelong learning, I thought, oh, yeah, because do you think that's why we all do what we do? Do you think it's, to suck the marrow out of forest school?
I think there's a thing about being in nature as well. I don't know if that's kind of part of it, is that like if you love learning, which I think probably we all do, and you're kind of passionate about like just more stuff, that nature offers you that, like in spades. You can start by going, okay, I'm going to learn how to ID like all of the trees that I can see in my patch or whatever. And then, okay, I've done that. And then I'm noticing the changes through the seasons or whatever. I've done that. And then there's like, you couldn't learn it all. Like, even if you tried, even if you dedicated all your time to it, even if you go, okay, I can identify all of the plants in my patch now, then I find out about, something about slime molds or something about tardigrades or something, there's just so much around us that I think it kind of, it keeps your mind active and keeps that sense of learning engaged all the time that you're working, in the same way that that toddlers engage with nature. I feel like I'm engaging with it in exactly the same way that they're like, whoa, a slug, oh my God. Like, I might have kind of got over how amazing slugs are, but I'm never going to get over how amazing loads of other stuff is. We were looking at water fleas under a microscope last week, and I was literally like jumping up and down, like, oh my God, it's so exciting. So I think, don't you think this kind of like outdoor education world kind of draws in people who kind of look at learning that way and life that way?
Yeah, 100%. I think we definitely attract the people that are seeking awe and wonder, for sure. And I wonder how many of us have, this need for dopamine.
Yes.
as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because
100%.
Look at us all, we run multiple businesses and multiple projects, and we're looking for the next exciting thing. And I don't know about your previous careers, but this is the one career where I feel like the learning will never end, but in the best way. And it's so intrinsic. And exactly like you said, I can turn up on any given day of the week and I can just about guarantee I will learn something new, whether that's from the community, the children themselves, or just Mother Nature just slapping me in the face with something I've never seen before. And I just think, how many other sectors get that on a daily basis at the same time as I'm grounding, as I'm building community, as I'm, connecting really deeply with my place and space and nature. I find that hard to find many other professions like this.
I think it's one of those things where, at least when I was a teacher, I mean, maybe this was just the particular space that I was in, but I almost felt like the more I learnt, the worse my superiors thought I was as a teacher. If you know how to deliver the the curriculum or the program that's been bought, this is the literacy program, it runs this many weeks. If you can deliver that, you're good. If you then go and learn about a different style of teaching and you try and bring some of that in, you're now a worse teacher in some ways, in some eyes, right? I don't believe that. But you know what I mean? That thing of like, actually, the more I learn in any direction now, and that's one of the problems, is it is completely in any direction makes me better at this job. There is no avenue of learning that I don't think I could go, well, I'm better at my job now, aren't I? I've got more to bring now. I've got more to offer in a way that I think, yeah, as a teacher, it was like, you will be happier in ignorance to a degree.
Yeah. No, but seriously, it is, because if you start veering outside of what's been set for you, and I think that was my frustration, because I'm an ex-high school teacher, and that was my frustration. I was like, well, I could just bring in this, or I could just bring in, and it was just always something else. And that can be really hard when you're constantly asking for more from your higher ups, or, you know, your managers, and it can be frustrating when you get no's as well. And it can be really frustrating when you feel like you might be ahead of, or you're keeping up with the research, but currently maybe your place of work isn't.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Oh,
Definitely
yes.
feel that. I was a secondary teacher as well. And you just feel like the more you go off and learn independently and then try and talk about it, you're just a troublemaker. You're just trouble. You're annoying. You are trying to rock the boat. And I wonder also, like, what you think about this kind of field of work, us being able to be our own bosses, and that being kind of key to being lifelong learning. Like, it enables that lifelong learning, doesn't it? That we get to decide which direction our projects are going in, and whether you think that now we could never ever have a boss again. I don't know. Do you feel that?
Thanks so much for listening to the podcast, everybody. You know the deal by now. I am here to talk to you for a minute or two about our Level 3 Forest School training course down on the Devon-Somerset border. Wem and I only do one cohort a year because we know the amount of time that it takes to support people through this course. We are not there to just put people through, talk at them, and then send them on their way. We give each cohort a full year. They have our attention so that they can message us all the way through. We set up a private Discord channel so people can chat with us at any time, send us all their coursework. That's not it. We do 10 days of training. We do 5 or 6 in the autumn. We then have a break where people go off, they can do their coursework, they can message us. We have Zoom calls all the way through the winter, and then in the spring we're back again in the woods for 4 or 5 days of face-to-face training again to really embed that learning. That is one of the big things that Wem and I have reflected on in recent years with our training, is that we are not just there to kind of say, here it is and now you do whatever you want with it. We have built a course around embedding the things that we feel are important. And not just that, we are taking the whole content of the course that we are required to deliver, all the normal stuff, you know, your fires, your tools, your risk assessments, your session plannings, and then on top of that, we are delivering in our Level 3 courses sessions on storytelling. We are offering sessions on vestibular needs. We are integrating sessions on neurodiversity and different kinds of inclusion. All these things that we're like, yeah, that's not in the course, but really important. So we're going to put it in our course. If you are listening to this and someone you know or yourself wants to get yourself Level 3 Forest School trained, then you can head to childrenoftheforest.com, and there's hyphens in between all of those words. So children-of-the-forest.com. You can find out about our Level 3 training course. We would love to have you with us. And the next one starts in September. So it's childrenoftheforest.com. Get over there, get yourself signed up, and you can be part of our limited cohort for the 2024-2025 cohort.
I had this exact conversation with someone today.
Really?
Who was also a small business owner. And I think that's it. But do you think because we run our own business as well, I wonder if it's because we're learning how children innately learn as well. So we're intrinsically motivated, we follow our own interests, we follow our own leads, and so it sticks and it's stickier. And so then learning becomes enjoyable because it's not being thrust upon us. We're choosing to do it. And so this whole process is enjoyable. Like my business learning has been the hardest and best and most rewarding journey I've ever been on in a learning journey. And I chose that, hard and all. But I wouldn't change that for anything. But if I had gone to university to do a business degree, I don't know that I would have made it through the course.
Yeah, that's such an interesting point, isn't it? I hadn't really considered that we are mirroring that what we preach about intrinsically motivated and it being self-directed. And because one of the things I was going to ask was like, what do we think, the three of us, what do we think it changes in our practice that we are very conscious but lifelong learners, that we are motivated, that we do those things? Because I was like, I wonder if that is one of the things that you couldn't necessarily put your finger on it, but if lots of the forest school that happens in the UK is done by teachers who do forest school on, say, a Thursday afternoon, or by people who are, it's a one of the strings to their bow, but not necessarily their whole thing. Whereas we are all in a position where we've gone like 2-footed in, learn, all of that, and what effect that has. Because I think there's massive benefits. There's also things like sometimes Wem and I will sit down and go, do you know, I don't think we've done fire lighting with these guys because we've gone on. Do you know what I mean? Like, we are interested in the next thing and the next thing, and our learning is spiraling. And occasionally we have to come back and go, where are they? Because we need to go back there. As enjoyable as it is for them to come with us, we might need to reflect on, go back a little bit. What do you think that your sort of attitude to learning rubs off in your programs?
Oh, absolutely. And I think the first thing is that children learn, well, anybody learns from a passionate mentor. So if we're passionate and we love it and we are absolutely loving what we are learning along the way, then that rubs off. And we've all been in those classrooms where that teacher should have retired 20 years ago. And even if we loved the subject, when we weren't loving that lesson or that particular class with that teacher. So I think if we want to maintain that passion, we have to stay and make sure that we are lifelong learners and continuously upgrading our skills and upgrading our learning, because they sniff it out. Children sniff out the days when we're not on and when we're not really present as well. So I think it does absolutely affect the way that we mentor and what we bring to our spaces as well. But I think that's brilliant. But I know I hear you on the, oh gosh, I may have skipped forward a bit because I really want to learn the ukulele, and I think a ukulele session would be great in the forest next week. How about you guys?
Yeah.
But no, we haven't even covered the basics sometimes. So we always get there, but it's generally someone saying, oh, hey, I want a fire strike. The weather's getting cooler. Can we do some fire striking? Absolutely. Yeah, I hadn't even noticed that it's getting cooler yet. So let's do that. And I'm really amazed how often I still enjoy teaching those skills, even though I may have taught them 1,000 times, because I see the absolute joy from that intrinsically motivated task. Every time when I see that look on a child when they first get that first strike, I go, this is worth it. This is great. And I can still go learn the ukulele. Great.
I wanted to ask, so as somebody, in the forest school world and running your own business, where do you find you kind of go to for your own learning? Is it that you want to learn the ukulele and so you're like, right, YouTube tutorials, or is it that you have a network of practitioners that you're in touch with and you learn from them, or is it a mixture? What's your style of kind of getting the information to progress your learning journey?
And I would love to flip this and hear your answer, because I think forest school has ruined me for so many types of learning. I really do. I can't sit and watch a YouTube tutorial. I get bored. I need hands-on. I want a mentor by me, and I want to connect with that mentor. So if you want to sell me something, it needs to be face-to-face. I need to have a relationship with you, and I need to want to be in your company. Because that's how I've learned for so many years now. Don't talk at me. Don't lecture at me. I want this to be a customized learning journey, please and thank you. It's ruined me for learning.
Amazing.
How about you? How do you learn best, or how do you seek your information?
I totally agree. Especially if I'm learning In fact, I cannot learn a practical physical skill without exactly that setup that you've just described. So I went on a basket making course. It was amazing. I made a basket. However, and I loved it, but the level was too advanced in terms of, and this is the French weave of the thingamabobby. And it was like, the teacher just wanted to give all of the skills, and it was quite overwhelming. And so I can't remember now any of the techniques. And I've got books. I've followed Instagram people. Have I made another basket? No, I blinking haven't. Do I want to? Yeah, absolutely. But it would take somebody exactly in that scenario sitting down next to me going, yeah, no, over now. It goes over and then under or through, whatever. So I think for practical learning, yes, definitely I would. It's all about kind of finding a course and signing up to it, paying for it, or committing the time to go, this is my brain space and physical space to learn this thing today at that time. No other distractions. It's just that. That's how I learn like physical, practical stuff. But then I really enjoy, I'm on a real like reading articles about specific, more academic sides of learning and play at the moment. And so that I can sit and read an article for hours if I, and whilst the housework mounts up around me. So
well done.
That's also a thing that I'm enjoying right now. But yeah, just want to do it all the time. All the time.
Are you ready? Are you in session? What do
I'm in the
what do
special
clergy
box.
say?
I'm in the box with the little holes,
Yes.
and I'm shrouded.
The holes are nibbled by squirrels
Yeah, exactly.
ornately.
I'm in the shed just there that we can see that we don't
The
use for
little
anything
library.
anymore. The library shed, and there's squirrels with nibbled holes in it. Yes.
Are we in a holy space?
Hit me.
Okay. This is a good one,
Okay.
I think.
Okay.
This is my most cringeworthy. This has been sent in.
Okay.
This is one of my most cringeworthy forest school confessions of all. I may have permanently scarred a group of kids for life with my over-the-top antics.
Okay.
We were out on a nature walk, meandering along the wooding trail as I pointed out different plants, trees and animal signs to the kids. Everything was going great until I spotted a huge slug stretched out along the path up ahead. Our nature walk had been relatively uneventful, so I decided to spice things up in an imaginative way. In my biggest, boomiest voice, I let out a high-pitched shriek of, "Slug! Run for your lives!" while dramatically jumping up and down, flailing my arms in the air. The kids went absolutely berserk and ran into each other as they scrambled away in terror, desperate to escape the threat that I was screaming about.
Oh my god.
In the chaos, one poor girl fell over and slightly hurt her ankle from tripping. As I knelt beside her, putting on an ice pack for my first aid, she looked up and looked a little bit sad and betrayed at me.
Oh my god.
All because of my idiotic over-exaggeration. Lewis and Wem, I understand if you can never forgive me, and I spent the rest of the day trying to regain those children's trust. All I can do is learn from the experience and hope that when it comes to nature sightings, less is definitely more.
Well, yes.
What a hurt.
I mean, okay, so I'm really interested to know what they wrote on the first aid form for that child that hurt their ankle. How did the incident
Tripped and
occur?
fell. Just tripped and fell.
Just tripped and fell. Not, I
details.
was pretending that a slug was a deadly creature. I freaked them out, and that's why they twisted their ankle. Like one time that my sister broke her ankle and had to go into hospital, and they were like, "How did this happen?" And she had to confess that she had been she was 14. She'd been imaginary fishing in the pond with a stick and some string, pretended to have caught a massive fish, and in going, "Whoa! It's out of control!" fell over and broke her ankle. She was slightly too old to have been engaging in that type of play. Well, I mean, they've already said they've learnt from this experience.
They've learned from it.
They've said less is definitely more. They have, they tried out something a little bit new, a little bit spicy.
We have all done that thing where you prep the deer are in the woods at the moment, the birds are out, and you go, I'm fairly confident in my nature knowledge. We can go over there, and I bet we'll see some animal prints. And depending on your group, you might suddenly feel that weight. The longer you go, the more you've walked without any sign of animal footprint. I can understand. I can fully empathise with that. I'm losing that.
Yes.
And to be silly with a
Yes.
slug and just to be in that moment not necessarily thinking that...
Absolutely.
Totally
and
understandable.
Doing it for the right reasons. Doing it because, they either felt that pressure or they just wanted to do something exciting for the children.
Okay, I'm going to offer a counterpoint, though.
Playful, yeah.
This is my clergy counterpoint.
Go on then.
Which is that, should we be condoning and forgiving people for continuing to demonise slugs, even in a jokey way? Do we have a moral upstanding? Can we condone such behaviour on behalf of
The slug community.
the slug community?
I mean, you're known amongst some groups for putting slugs on your face.
I am, correct.
Does that behaviour outweigh the condemnation and vilification
I
of
think
slugs?
I would like to forgive this person for being overdramatic, but
And causing injury.
offer that they need to give penance to the slug community
Yeah,
in order to be fully absolved.
yes.
That is my ruling. The priest's rule on
Bring in at least 5 cabbage leaves to the forest and give an offering of cabbage to the slugs.
Yes.
And the next time they see a slug, to be overly dramatic, and there's children there, overly dramatic in a really excited,
That's it.
positive, guys, look
Look at this beautiful
my goodness, look at this
thing, this is
beautiful creature,
incredible.
come, guys, look, oh, look, you can
But
see
not
its
in a way that
little
makes
love
people
dart.
crush over the
You
bit,
can
yes.
see a little love dart.
Amen.
Amen.
I think I learn. It sounds like I learn in the opposite way, because I think I have such a. Possibly this comes from I think my own education background, not being a teacher, but my own schooling, was very fixed mindset, and so I think I still have some internalized stuff around good at things, not good at things, learning to do the things. So I really value YouTube tutorials or things where I can go and watch. One, I like that if I don't gel with one particular YouTube presenter, I can go and find another one. And there's no interpersonal thing of having to say to the person, you are not gelling with me. I can just click it and just go nope, click away. But also I think I'm someone who needs a lot of privacy to go and practice before I feel comfortable being observed, the minimum level at which I feel observable in things. And I'm trying to work on that. I'm trying to get better at, especially from a modeling point of view, there are many things where I'm absolutely cack at this, right? It just does not happen. And I will say that to the kids, or go I'm really just learning, or I'm doing the thing. But there are some things where I go, no, I actually have to go away now and practice this physical manipulation thing on my own, and I will only feel comfortable doing that when I've reached what I decide is a basic level of competency that I will then come out to the world and go, here I am, competent as ever. But that, I think, having all those there is something about, I think, it's the way that Wem and I work, and having all these different experiences of our own learning massively helps in terms of facilitating that learning. Even if just to acknowledge it and go I think you need to learn a bit like me. Do you want to take, when we do our level 3, when we do our Forest School leader courses, some stuff we give them some tools and say, go away, I'm not going to look at you, just go away and do it, right? You need to go and practice this, take 2 bits of rope, go and sit in the woods for 20 minutes, see what happens. Because knots in particular, I feel are something where people are oh God, don't observe me, don't see me do the thing. Or there are some things where people want to do it alongside you, or, knowing yourself how you learn all those different things really helps to facilitate those different skill opportunities for different people. Would you say that's true in your programs, Nicky?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's so important, that even though we are in the forest, we can't just assume that everybody's going to learn practically. You know, some people are going to need that real oral, side-by-side communication. Some are going to need just the visual. Some are going to need a really good connection with that educator. And if they can't, or that mentor, then, you know, they might go and choose someone else, and we can't be heartbroken by that. That's okay. And I think where we often see, and I'm sure you're the same, with sometimes the children that don't thrive academically come and thrive at forest school, we do need to remember that those children maybe that aren't as confident in forest school may need to learn more similarly, in a way similar to the classroom. So they might need a picture or a diagram or a step-by-step scaffolding. You know, I think that's really important to acknowledge. And that's something I probably need to remind myself as well, because I am that kinesthetic learner, and I need to remember that not everybody is. And I have no shame in, and I think that's because it's a mantra at our school, failing is fun. We're all scientists here. Everything we do is an experiment. There is no such thing as a failure, and there's no such thing as a mistake. It's all learning. So, you know, we smash that into our children, and we smash it into our team. It is, everything's an experiment. Nothing's a mistake. Everything's learning. And that becomes a mantra in my own head. So, you know, there is no shame when I'm teaching knots in our forest school leader courses, and I'm like, you know what? I've forgotten this. Give me 2 seconds. I'm going to have to go and have a practice myself. This is one of the tasks that is not sticky for me, and I need to practice it. If you don't use it, you lose it. Yeah. So, and that's probably a good indicator to me that I don't use this knot a lot. So heads up, you might not use it much either. This might not be an important knot. But if you're finding it easy, maybe bank that one. You know, some knots come easier to other people. You know what it's like. Some people will pick up some of those complicated knots like that. And I look at them and go, wow, I do not have that brain. And that's okay. Things will stick for other people in other areas. And I think that's the other thing with lifelong learning is we're not meant to be brilliant at everything, and that's okay. And part of forest school is building this village and this community of people where we all play to our strengths. And that's not to say that I don't ever do knots and I don't, you know, I never step in and help a child with a knot. But if there's a particular specialty, I will let them know. I said, I've got these 3 or 4 knots that I can nail, and everything else, I've got to work really hard. But Vicky and Sarah over here, why don't we all go over? I'm going to get a refresher too, and we'll go and be a team together. And it just sets up that you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be spectacular at every skill. We've got these great mentors everywhere that have these specialist skills. How great.
Yeah.
And that you can recover stuff.
Not a one-man band.
That's massive, isn't it? You know, we were talking about you know, learning differently to kind of state education, and that kind of linear approach of like, well, you've done that, so you just move on. You've done that, so you've done A, so you do B, and then C, and then D. And like modeling that thing of going back and going, hey, where am I going to need you to tell me what little bird that is again? Because I cannot hold little bird names in my head, and just modeling all of that. Like, it's not one and done. Not everything is like, you know, in forever. That's a huge piece of modeling that I think is something that is going to be more and more apparent as, you know, we're probably already seeing a degree of it, but the amount that people, oh, hang on, I'm going to waffle for a minute. I will get to a point, I promise. There was a thing when people started writing down Greek tablets, the wax tablets started to get really cheap in ancient Greece, and there's recordings of people having a real freak out that people's oral memories, the you know, remembering stories, remembering what they were going to do, was wasting away because of these beeswax tablets, and saying we're wasting our brains as a civilization. We will crumble because nobody can remember anything anymore because they write it down. Oh God, the stupid idiots, you know, all this. And so scaling that up, then we're probably in the last, you know, 50 years, we've gone through this transition from like static information, facts, figures, things like that, being, look, you've either got it in your head and you can recite it for your Oxford exam, or you don't have it in your head and it's just not accessible to you. Whereas now there's that maybe move towards like, okay, so what is your plasticity? How quickly can you go back and find stuff? How quickly can you reteach yourself things? Because the skill set required to thrive is no longer rote memory of huge amounts of factual knowledge. It's about practical application. And would you say that, when there's kind of this move towards, you know, I don't want to say temporal knowledge, but kind of it's less important to be able to recall loads of static information?
Yeah, I think it depends what field you're in, doesn't it? And what level of your education you're at, because still in school you are required to regurgitate a lot of factual stuff, and that's a real shame. That actually, that theory that learning is about knowing how you will find it out, like that is actually the learning, is having the self-confidence and the experience to go, okay, well, I could go to this person or I could go to this source, and I could, it's having the confidence that you can facilitate your own learning. That is the most important learning, almost. And that is something that we can definitely model to the children that we're working with, as you said, Nicky, about, do you know what? I can't actually remember. I wonder how I could find out. Oh, I could look that up on the internet, or I can get the book that I know is over there, or I could ask somebody. And you're kind of modeling that all the time. And yeah, it is about plasticity, isn't it? It's going, I don't have to hold it all in my head. I just need to have the confidence to not give up on the quest to find that information or to acquire that skill. I just need the resilience, the tenacity, and the self-belief to go, I've got different places to find the knowledge, and I'm going to continue and find it.
And this is, I think, where Forest School, the children coming through Forest School are going to really benefit, is that we now need to be more discerning about where we find that information and who's written that information, who's funded that information with, ChatGPT and AI and whatnot. Like you said, we can regurgitate anything at the, verbally. My 9-year-old can get on ChatGPT, speak to it, and have things just spitball up straight to him. So it's not the need to regurgitate the facts, it's the need to discern those facts. So, and at Forest School, I feel like we teach, or we mentor and guide, and we role model that questioning. It's,
critical thinking.
What is that? It's that awe and wonder again. Yeah, it is. It is. Oh, what is that? How do we find out about it? Oh, well, what field guide is that? How old is that field guide? There's a little bit more depth to the questioning that happens, I believe, because we're not trying to dump information in, and the questions are coming from the children rather than the assessment piece that we're trying to tick a box to fit.
Yeah. There we have it, guys. Now, if that doesn't sound like the end, that's because it's not the end. Don't forget, the second half of this conversation is over on the Raising Wildlings podcast. You can look them up if you go on your podcast apps anywhere you want. Look up Raising Wildlings and you will hear the second half of this conversation. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Nicky, and thank you to all of our lovely Patreon people who have helped us support us to get us through funding these episodes. Thank you all so much, and I hope you enjoy the second half over on the Raising Wildlings podcast feed. Bye.